Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Hey there, I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Hope you're doing well on this Monday. What is it? The 11th of November. I don't even know what day it is. It's the 11th of November. We've actually got out here in California in the Bay Area some rain, some holiday weather. We got Thanksgiving approaching, obviously Hanukkah, Christmas, all the good stuff. So I actually got some holiday weather. I don't mind turning on the holiday music today because it feels different. It's not 65 and sunny. It's a little bit stormy, a little bit. You probably don't want to hear any of this, so I'll get away from it. But I kind of woke up this morning feeling pretty good. Hopefully you woke up feeling pretty good today as well. I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. You can find me over at FG all the time, answering questions in Discord, writing articles, baseball, football. You can find me here Monday through Friday. You can hear, actually, let me take that back. You can hear me. You can hear the show Monday through Friday. I'm only here Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. On Wednesdays, Justin Fensterman hosts the show. Because on Wednesdays, I'm with Jeff Mans on the Elite Sports Show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I'm here, 12 o'clock Eastern Time for about an hour. Wednesdays, Justin is here for an hour. And then on Wednesdays, I'm with Jeff Mans for 3 hours. That show, the Elite Sports Show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, is Monday through Friday with Jeff. I'm on 3 to 6 with him on Wednesdays. You can also follow me on Twitter X, on Instagram at the Ray Flowers. Check it out. We have some fun. At least, I guess that's the idea, having fun. And we're going to have some fun here on the show. Thanks for everybody for helping the show grow, helping the show be a thing. Really appreciate that. We got a lot of regulars in the chat room we always see all the time, which is great. For those people that are new, welcome. On Mondays, what do we do? Here's what we do on Mondays. I'll throw it up on the screen for those of you watching. We go through all the games on Sunday. I take a look at both sides of the game, both teams, leave some comments on both, and we kind of just rock and roll. No notes other than what you see there. I haven't written anything down. It's all stream of consciousness discussion with all of you. The show, again, is Monday through Friday, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. This is the plan on Mondays. Tuesdays, I freestyle for about half the show, talk Monday Night Football, and then we visit with Armando Marsal to talk waivers. On Wednesday, I freestyle completely because I'm not here. Justin Festerman's here with Richard Mileto. On Thursdays, I freestyle, and then we preview Thursday Night Football with Tyler Beaker. And on Fridays, I freestyle, and then we bring in Russell Clay to talk Dynasty, to talk seasonal, kind of all things football. And for those of you that aren't watching live, you can listen to the show, as you're probably aware by now, anywhere you hear your podcasts. Go to your podcast network, type in Fantasy Sports Daily. Go to FantasyGuru.com at the top of the page, click the Elite Plus tab. That'll bring up all the podcasts and shows we have. One Man's Opinion, Mind of Marsal, Basketball Diaries, this show. Check it out. This show's obviously free over at FG, the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. You can also watch us on Twitter X at Fantasy Guru Site Live. You can obviously follow it after the fact, too. It's stored there at Fantasy Guru Site. For those of you that are on Facebook or on YouTube, you can ask questions and leave comments that we'll address throughout the show, oftentimes at the end. But if you're watching right now on Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ or on YouTube at YouTube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, you can leave those comments. We will see them. We will good to go. All of that kind of stuff. All right, here we go. Hal's, by the way, Hal's jumping in already. Ray, what a wonderful kind of day. Yeah, like I said, I'm out here in California. We're kind of soft out here in California. Why can't I get there? We go. So it's a little bit welcomed here. We haven't had bad weather or anything like that. And it's nice. A little bit of rain, a little bit of wind, nothing fancy. Hopefully nothing that's going to impact the power, though you never know. We seem to get power outages at times for no reason. I do basically live in Silicon Valley, so it's kind of strange. But anyway, looking good right now. Thanks for the comment, Hal, Angelo, Doug, everyone else that's here. And by the way, tell a friend because it's a free show. We do, of course, have seasonal products. We have DFS products. We have wagering products over at FantasyGuru.com. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page and get signed up. Send a note to support@FantasyGuru.com. Support@FantasyGuru.com. Give it a go. We got all the sports. We've got the MVP package right now where you can get basketball and hockey combined. You also get other sports there. I think you get NASCAR and PGA. It's all the MVP plan. So check that out. If you want to get involved with anything football related, send a note to support@FantasyGuru.com, and we can help you out here down the stretch in the second half of the season. And we're barely past the midway point. Let's not get crazy. Season's not over. I know for a lot of people, things are starting to look a little dreary in the seasonal space. Even if that's the case, you can still play DFS. you can still bet. So head us up over at fantasyguru.com. All right. You see the screen there, the games or in the order we're going to go through. So let's dive right into it. The tour of the world continues for the NFL. I don't know about you. I'm up at 6:15 on Sunday morning, so I'm getting ready to tweet to answer stardom sit-em questions. At SiriusXM Fantasy is where you can find my advice on Sundays from 10 to 1 Eastern time. So I'm up at 6:15 anyway, so it doesn't ever bother me that the game started at 6:30 West Coast time. But I mean, is anyone on the West Coast? Did a single person on the West Coast wake up to watch the Giants and Panthers at 6:30 in the morning? I don't understand what the NFL is doing. They're talking about expanding the European scenario. That should be my takeaway from this game. What are you doing? I love the fact, by the way, that they give the Germans the Panthers and the Giants too. At least they didn't steal a good game from us here in the States. But anyway, Panthers defeated the Giants 20-17. Let's talk a little bit about Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones did not play a good football game. There's no way around that. He had a rushing touchdown. He threw for 190 yards, a couple of picks. He missed wide open receivers. He missed open receivers on throws. He missed wide open receivers where he didn't even throw the ball to them. He did not play a good game. Now, the real problem for the Giants is they're 2-8. Their season's over. They know that. Drew Lock, who's the backup to Daniel Jones. Drew Lock's not the answer. He is not the answer. This organization is not going to build around Drew Lock. Do they make a change to Drew Lock? Well, they could. I mean, they're paying Daniel Jones $1 gazillion. I don't think they would have gone 10 games into the season because Daniel Jones hasn't played great for the majority of the year. I don't think they go with Daniel Jones week after week because they think that Drew Lock gives them a better chance to win football games. I think it is what it is with Daniel Jones. The real problem with Daniel Jones is that there's been some odd play calling here. I mean, again, I don't know. It seems weird to me. Trying to Tracy ran for 100 yards and a touchdown again. Malik Neighbors caught a ball, his head hit the ground. Did he catch the ball? No, he didn't catch the ball. Did he catch it? I forget. His head hit the ground, and it bounced, and he went it like this and grabbed his head and had to be checked for head. That's a concern because that's a play that happens legitimately 40 times in a football game. That wasn't he got lit up or anything like that. So I'm a little bit nervous about Malik Neighbors, where he's at. Is his head okay? I don't know. But the bottom line is they've got Wendell Robinson, who's 5'3". They've got Jalen Hyatt, who can only run post routes. They've got nothing. They don't have anyone for Daniel Jones to take advantage of in the passing game. They don't have anyone. It's Malik Neighbors or a dump off to Robinson. That's it. That's the entire offense. It wouldn't matter if it was Drew Lock. There's nothing to do here. So it is what it is. Daniel Jones is a bottom level QB2. He's a quarterback 2 streaming option in flex scenarios, super flex scenarios. He's obviously not someone to be starting. And it's not, if they change to Drew Lock, I don't think the offense changed much. So that's kind of the takeaway here. You don't get excited if Drew Lock is suddenly the quarterback as if things are going to change for the Giants. On the other side of things, Chuba Hubbard, who, by the way, is – Angelo said, I added Chuba on the waiver wire on September 18th, might be the best out of the year. That might be the best out of the year. I don't know why on earth anyone would have dropped Hubbard. People do really stupid things. That was really stupid. I mean, that was dumb. Good for you, Angelo, because he has been fantastic, continues to be fantastic. As I have mentioned to many people over and over again, actually, in Discord at fantasyguru.com. Remember, we were talking about this last week here on the show, too. We want to play the game of what is, not what could be. The game of what could be is Jonathan Brooks takes over the backfield. The game of what is Chuba Hubbard is a running back 1, a top 5 running back in the fantasy space since week 3, across the board, 153 yards and a touchdown yesterday, 4 catches for 16 yards, another huge game for him. Brooks wasn't even active yesterday. And I keep having this conversation with everyone's got to understand what's going on here. And we'll talk about this with Nico Collins later. That's a different scenario. But Brooks has been expected by some people. He was expected by some people to be the starter for this team in week 5, which is nonsense. Then some thought week 6, certainly by week 9 or 10. He's not even active. His head coach, Dave Canales, continues to say every time he's asked, well, we'll see. He's putting in good practice snaps. And, Hubbard signs the contract and people are still worried. Oh, Brooks is coming in this week. We talked about this. We think, Jeff Mans and I talked about this on Wednesday on the Elite Sports Show. I'm just not sold, and I haven't been sold, that Brooks is going to be a significant player until he's a significant player. He's not even active. They have a bye in week 11. Jonathan Brooks is not even going to be active this season until at least week 12. If he's active then, he's supposedly healthy, but he's not playing. Hubbard continues to dominate touches, continues to dominate to be a force. And as I said, he legitimately is, since week 3 of the NFL season, a top 5 running back in the fantasy space. Moving on next, there's nothing to talk about here. I mean, Bears lost the football game 19-3 to the Patriots. Patriots aren't a very good football team. The Bears are even worse. The Bears fall to 4-5. The Bears should be 3-6 because they got very fortunate with that victory earlier in the season. Starting on the Patriots side of things, you start Ramondre Stevenson. He's a bottom-level running back too. Okay. Other than that, like maybe Drake May in a 2QB Superflex league, he went for 184 yards and a touchdown, had a pick though. He ran for 24 yards. So there's always that athleticism he brings. But really, it's Demario Douglas. And, 1 week it's Austin Hooper led the team with 64 yards this week. Keyshawn Butte had 4 catches to tie with Douglas for the lead of the team. But I just want to talk about Douglas because he's the guy that every week is catching 4 or 5 passes for 50 yards. That's not exciting. And if you're in a 10-team league, who cares? And if you're in a 12-team league that starts 2 wide receivers, who cares? If you're in a 12 or 14-team league that starts 3 wide receivers, which, remember, everyone should say it with me because it's been the industry standard for 25 years, 3 wide receivers starting. We have to remember here that things are about ready to get really, really dicey when it comes to bye weeks. The Jets, the Giants, the Cardinals, the Bucks, and the Panthers are all on bye this week. Next week in week 12, there's 6 teams on bye, and there's 6 teams on bye in week 14. So guys like Douglas, they have a role now because you're all dealing with injuries. We know that. Sorry, my phone's ringing. I got a text. I should have put it all off before we got started here. Everyone always contacts me when I'm on the show. It's very weird. There's 1 hour a day where I have to be talking on. Every other time, I can squeeze it. Anyway, back to the show. With all the things going on, swirling with the injuries, with the wide receiver position in particular, with the fact that we've got these bye weeks that are all upon us, Demario Douglas and his 9 or 10 PPR points, not bad. Is it good? Is it record-breaking? Is it league-winning? No. Is it usable in certain scenarios? Yes, but it has to be some of those scenarios, so be cautious with that. On the other side of things, look, there's rumors the Bears might fire their OC. The Bears have scored 27 points the last 3 games on offense. I put Caleb Williams there because he's the quarterback, so let's use him as the jumping off point here. But the bottom line is the Bears' offense sucks. Part of that is having a rookie quarterback, Caleb Williams. Part of that is that when he's under duress, he doesn't get rid of the ball and live to play another down. He's running around and extending plays. There's pluses and minuses to that, right? Third, the offensive line is not good. Like there's all kinds of things going on here. 4, even though DeAndre Swift has had a bunch of nice games, they really struggle sometimes, including yesterday, to establish anything on the ground. So this is kind of just a combination of factors. Caleb Williams yesterday goes for 120 yards, no touchdowns, and no picks. I mean, they can't go to Tyson Bagent. Like, that's not going to improve anything with the Bears. So Caleb Williams is the starter. But the bottom line is this offense is just neutral city, man. It's just stuck in freaking mud. Cole Kmet caught 2 passes yesterday. He didn't catch any last week. Odunze, Moore, and Allen all had 6 targets. So all 3 of the guys played most of the snaps. All 3 of the guys had exactly the same target total. None of them hit 45 yards. And, Keenan Allen is not what he once was, but let's just go back to last year. He was catching 7 passes every game last year with Justin Herbert. I mean, 5 catches, 44 yards. DJ Moore had another rough effort, 3 catches for 24 yards. Odunze had a drop. He went for 3 catches for 23 yards. DeAndre Swift is usable. Everyone else right now, I mean, really, I don't know if you want to be using anyone from this Bears team right now, other than DeAndre Swift. And even that, 59 yards rushing yesterday, caught a pass for 6 yards. Even that's a low-level running back too. If they make changes to the offense, we'll see. But what they're doing now is not working, and it's not been working for a while. It's really disappointing. The Bears season that started out with promise is obviously going in the wrong direction at this point in time. Buffalo, Indianapolis, the Bills defeated the Colts 30-20. It really wasn't that close, but it was 30-20. It was the final score. Amari Cooper, so let's quickly go through this. Keon Coleman has a wrist issue. We heard from the coach he was week to week, and then we heard from the coach later he might play this week. You can't be week to week the first week you're hurt and then be able to play this week. That means you're day to day. Okay. Now that we're in week 2 with Cam Coleman, you can say he's week to week. Maybe he plays this week. But that's how they handle that. Amari Cooper had a wrist injury. No one thought a big deal about it last week. He was surprising inactive. This week, no one seemed overly concerned that Cooper wouldn't play. I think the overarching belief was that Cooper would play this week, especially because Cam Coleman was down. And then Sunday morning, Amari Cooper's ruled out. What are the Bills doing? I mean, they're winning football games. They're 8-2. Okay, so there's no problem with the Bills. But what are they doing? So Amari Cooper hasn't played 2 straight weeks now. Because of that, Matt Collins became a desperation play yesterday for some people. 4 catches for 86 yards. That was a solid effort. Khalil Shakir had his 6-catch, 58-yard game. He's a better version of Demario Douglas, a more usable version of Demario Douglas, and a top 25 wide receiver in a PPR setup, by the way. Everyone, you're welcome. Jeff Manns, Tommy Callahan. Curtis Samuel had 8 targets, finally being fully integrated into the offense, and he did nothing. He had a drop. He got 4 balls for 35 yards. Just so this team, I mean, to win a football game, to score 30 points without technically your number 1 wide receiver, technically your number 3 wide receiver, pretty damn good. I don't know what the team is doing with Amari Cooper. I don't know. I assume we all assumed, again, Cooper could have played the first game, and now he's missed 2 weeks with this wrist issue. So I don't know what the wrist thing is. This is really bad. Don't forget about Amari Cooper, though. That's the bottom line here. It's been so long since he's been effective. People are going to look at him and go, you might consider making it. If you can still make trades, make a trade to get Amari Cooper because the cost ain't going to be anything. And Amari Cooper is going to be the number 1 wide receiver for this team down the stretch. So keep that in mind. On the other side of things, Joe Flacco saved his fantasy day. He threw 3 picks. He didn't play very well. In the end, he threw for 272 yards and 2 touchdowns, saving his fantasy day on the final play of the game with a touchdown pass to Alec Pierce. There are rumors now. We're going in the other direction with Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco's been fine. He hasn't been good. He's been fine. He's been better than Anthony Richardson. That's true. But the Colts are now 4-6, and they're falling out of the playoff picture. So now there's the rumors of, does Anthony Richardson get back under center? The bottom line is, no matter who's under center, this is all just messy. Michael Pittman didn't play, a back finger issue, so he was out. Adonai Mitchell stepped up, caught 6 balls for 71 yards. So if you're like me and you had to make a decision late because you had all kinds of injuries and bye weeks at the wide receiver spot, I played Mitchell. I was really happy to get the 13 points. Mitchell's not a priority add on the waiver wire, though, because once Pittman's back, Mitchell's role in the offense in terms of volume goes way down. Josh Downs had 7 catches for 72 yards, had a strong fantasy effort. If you didn't get a chance to watch the game, he dropped the ball that was literally right in his hands at about the 4-yard line. Would have been a touchdown. So that would have been 80 catches for 79 yards and a score. Instead, it was followed at 772, but brutal drop. We had brutal drops across the land. Amari Cooper dropped the 60-yard touchdown that was right in his hands, right in his freaking hands. Diami Brown had a ball in the end zone. Literally, he went like this and missed it. Some horrid drops yesterday. We had Mooney of the Niners miss 3 field goals. We had Koo of the Falcons miss 3 field goals. We had some crappy play across the land yesterday. Back to Flacco real briefly. He is what he is. And, he's a bottom-level quarterback too. And he's going to continue to throw, and that's how it's going to go. Taylor ran for his 100-plus yards again yesterday. Not much of a takeaway here other than I would assume Flacco is still the quarterback, and this is still a team that's just kind of blah. Minnesota and Jacksonville. A lot of people saw the first 6 weeks of the season with Sam Darnold, and they were in on Sam Darnold. And, he's throwing for 2-3 touchdowns every week. I get it. But Sam Darnold's kind of crept out a little bit here of late. And yesterday, it was not good. They won the football game against the Jaguars. They're twice the team that the Jaguars are, so it's not surprising they won the football game, 12-7. Sam Darnold threw 3 picks, all of them on passes that were intended for Justin Jefferson. Sam Darnold isn't much different than Joe Flacco. He's not much different than Joe Flacco. Those people that have Sam Darnold think they've got a quarterback one all season long. I've said all along when people have asked about it, I'm like, he should be okay, right? But he's not a top 10 quarterback. And we're seeing that the last couple of weeks highlighted by what happened yesterday. And this brings up something that I've mentioned many times, and we finally really saw it come to roost yesterday when Justin Jefferson became Demario Douglas. He caught 5 passes for 48 yards. He still had his, 9 targets? He was still heavily involved again, 3 interceptions on passes thrown his way. But Jefferson, he hasn't really had ceiling games this year. He's mostly had floor games, which is fine when he's scoring 14 points. I mean, I'm not, Justin Jefferson is fine, but he was drafted to be a superstar. And even when they threw 38 passes yesterday, which is I think it's a season high for Darnold, it's only had 5 catches for 48 yards for Jefferson. So as Darnold goes, so goes Jefferson, of course. And Darnold's trending downward, which is a little bit of a concern for Justin Jefferson. On the other side of things, entering this game, Tank Bigsby was the lead back. We were kind of projecting a 55-45 thing with Travis Etienne. Bigsby went out there with an ankle issue, and he re-aggravated it and didn't play much. And you could see that he didn't touch the field. I mean, he didn't touch the ball. He only had 2 touches. Etienne had 12. Let's pull up the Jaguars snap count real quick. I think it was pretty dominant in terms of what happened with Travis Etienne. Travis Etienne played 30 snaps. Bigsby played 10. So, the initial reaction is, well, Etienne's back as being the one. I never thought that Etienne wouldn't be the one if he was healthy. So now I would say it's 55-45, Etienne to Bigsby. Now, the interesting thing is, ideally, they'd have Bigsby play first and second down, Etienne play third down. They'd sprinkle Etienne on first and second downs too, and they'd probably say 15 touches for Etienne and 10 for Bigsby. That's probably kind of an ideal scenario for the Jaguars. Unfortunately, Mac Jones started out pretty solid yesterday and then toilet city there. Played a poor game, made bad decisions, and in the end, the numbers were bad. He threw a couple of interceptions. He lost a fumble. He threw for 100 yards. The offense didn't work. Tough matchup against Minnesota, but still. So the offense was crushed. The bottom line is I'm still an Etienne guy in terms of Etienne or Bigsby when they're both healthy. Right now, the healthier guy seems to be Etienne, and Bigsby's a question mark. So there is potential for Etienne to be, 15-plus touches a week moving forward as long as he's healthy. But the offense has got to get going. The passing attack was woeful yesterday with Mac Jones. I kind of said jokingly, Mac Jones and Trevor Lawrence, what's the difference? Saw yesterday, there's a difference. It was not a good game yesterday for the Jaguars by any stretch of the imagination. Their head coach could get fired this week. Living off a Super Bowl, they're 2-8, and they suck. Denver and Kansas City, for those that missed this game, Kansas City won 16-14. At the end of the game, there was an opportunity for the Denver Broncos to win the football game. Blocked field goal on the last play of the game. So now again, if you missed the game as well, Patrick Mahomes could have hit Travis Kelce with a couple of minutes left in the end zone for his second touchdown of the game, which would have put the game out of reach anyway. But the bottom line is the Broncos had a chance to win the game. They didn't try to score a touchdown. They just got it into, they got into which side of the field do you want, kid? Let's make the field goal and all that. Blocked kick. Patrick Mahomes running around like they won the World Series, won the Super Bowl. He is the part owner of the Royals, so that's not that bad of a Freudian slip. But the Kansas City Chiefs moved to 9-0. The Broncos fall to 5-5. This is a very tough, hard-fought game here between these two sides. On the Broncos side of things, we saw happen what we were talking about happening over at FantasyGuru.com. What Jeff Mann's been talking about on the Elite Sports Show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. You look at this backfield. McLaughlin played 7 snaps. Javonte Williams played 16 snaps. Audric Estime played 26 snaps. So in terms of snap count, Estime led the way. In terms of touch count, he really led the way. Jaleel McLaughlin had 2 touches. Javonte Williams had 3. Audric Estime had 14. So this was a difficult matchup against the Chiefs, who are a very good team. I don't think the Chiefs have allowed any running back one against them this season in 9 games. Well, I guess technically they would have estimated because he wasn't the running back one before. If we consider Javonte Williams number 1, which is what he was entering the game, Chiefs haven't allowed a single running back one, I think, all year to outpace their fantasy production against them. So take the normal average of the running back coming into the game against the Chiefs. They don't get to that level in the fantasy game against the Chiefs. So it's not a surprise that they struggled to run the ball. But Estime played more snaps. He obviously dominated the touches. And there you go. So hopefully you added Estime. I added Estime in leagues where he was available last week, actually 2 weeks ago in one league. Hopefully you were able to do the same thing because Estime looks like he's in the lead. Now, the problem for the Broncos is Sean Payton likes to use 3 running backs and really likes to use 2. So I'm not anticipating it right now I wouldn't sit here and say, well, we're going to get 15 touches every week for Estime and 3 for Williams. I'm not expecting it to be that, but it could be 15 and 10, could be 14 and 8, something like that. It does appear that they've kind of tired on Javonte Williams, and Audric Estime is now the guy. Hopefully, if you've got Javonte, you did the smart thing, which we talk about all the time. I was having another discussion this morning with people, with a user over at fantasyguru.com. Please handcuff your running backs, whether you believe in handcuffing your running backs or not. And I know a lot of people don't believe in it. That's fine. It's week 11 of the fantasy football season starting tomorrow. Okay, we got one more game here on Monday Night Football. This is the time of the year, even if you don't believe in handcuffing running backs, you should be handcuffing your running backs. Okay? Pay very close attention the next couple of weeks because everyone's going on a bye. Maybe you weren't able to draft your handcuff. Maybe someone sniped you at the draft or sniped you the first waiver run, whatever. People are going to start dropping these guys. Like no one's carrying, Isaac Garendo or Blake Corum. No one's carrying these guys through bye weeks when there's 4 teams or 6 teams on bye and people are dealing with injuries and they're trying to make the playoffs, right? So watch the waiver wire very closely. Even if you're not a handcuff person, I would strongly consider handcuffing your people here the next couple of weeks. On the other side of thing, Xavier Worthy, by the way, Travis Kelce, who a lot of people thought was no good. We talked about it here on the show. Travis Kelce or Cade Otton. Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce's caught 32 balls the last 3 games, which is the second most receptions ever in a 3-game run consecutively for a tight end in football history. 32. You know who had 33? Jason Witten. You're right. Jason Witten. Kelce had a touchdown yesterday, 8 catches, 64 yards. Kareem Hunt actually led the team with 7 catches and 65 yards. Didn't do anything on the ground against the Broncos, but he saved his day with those pass catches. I want to talk about Xavier Worthy. I am not, and you all know this if you followed my work for any amount of time or here in articles. Xavier Worthy, I was bigger than Xavier Worthy when I was 13 years old. Like Xavier Worthy is, I don't know, what do they list him at? 5'9", 165. Okay, there are just certain things on the football field that guy can't do. He just can't. Is he the fastest mofo out there? Sure. Does he got quick? Sure. He's limited as a football player because he's so damn small. And we saw it again yesterday. 1 catch for 11 yards on 4 targets. He's not part of the offense. He tried to dive and catch a long pass for his shoulder. Like he can't even hit the ground without getting hurt now. Bottom line is if you spend a pick on Xavier Worthy, in a lot of fantasy experts were 100% in on Xavier Worthy. I was not. I'm not always right. There's many times when I'm wrong. But remember this when it comes to years in the future, when we're talking about these 5'9", 170 guys that are blazing fast, especially at the start of their careers, remember the volatility piece is massive. There have been games this year where Xavier Worthy's been a really good fantasy play. Now, a lot of his value has been because of rushing touchdowns. He's a gimmick player. But again, he's a little dude in his first season. So bottom line is with Worthy, you don't have to roster Worthy at this point. You really don't. Is he somebody when there's bye weeks, when you're dealing with injuries, is he someone to pick up because it could be the MVS 3-catch, 100-yard game? Yeah, it could be with Worthy. So that he's always in play for that dart throw opportunity because of his speed and his ability to lift the lid on defense. But in terms of consistent production, it is non-existent with Xavier Worthy. The Falcons lost to the Saints 20-17. Again, Koo, the really good kicker for the Falcons, missed 3 kicks, and they lost by 3 points. He was kind of despondent after the game. Arthur Black had his arm around him walking off the field and all that because, no one player blows the game. No one play costs the game. It's the whole thing. But he missed 3 field goals, which is just unacceptable. The Niners were able to win despite Mooney missing 3 field goals. Missing 3 field goals in 2024 is not only unacceptable, it's a fireable offense. Luckily, Koo's not getting fired, and luckily Moody's not. So look at these guys are the kickers for their team, but there's a lot of players in this league at that position. If they miss 3 field goals, they're out of business today, right? Luckily, Koo and Moody will stay in place. But I want to talk about Darnell Mooney because, we have Kirk Cousins who threw for 300 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception. London had his 8 catches for 97 yards. Pitts caught 4 for 55, so those guys kind of did their thing. Bijan Robinson had a couple of rushing touchdowns. He had 140 yards of offense, scrimmage yards. But Darnell Mooney has really become a thing here. He had 5 catches for 96 yards. he saw 10 targets. There are a lot of teams in this league, the Packers being one of the chief ones, right? Where there's like 5 or 6 wide receivers and their playing time varies a little bit week to week, and their target total varies week to week, and their prominence varies week to week. Ain't none of that happening with the Falcons. Here's how the Falcons go. They got Pitts at tight end. Then they've got London, Mooney, Ray McLeod. That's it. Those 3 receivers, McLeod, London, and Mooney, all play like 90% of the snaps. They play every snap. They're always on the field. They're always in 3 wide receiver sets, and they just go. And Mooney has never been somebody I've liked because he's slight of build. I don't think he's an outstanding talent either. But in this offense, he's always on the field. And like I said, he had 10 targets yesterday. So he's catching 5 passes every week because of the way that they're running their offense. It's not, let's have 5 receivers running half the routes. No, it's these 3 guys all the freaking time. And Ray McLeod, though he's always out there, Ray McLeod's a 4 or 5 target guy, right? He's not somebody that's going to be soaking up targets. So Mooney's getting 8, 9, 10 targets every week. You know that by now. Another strong effort yesterday by Mooney, and it isn't likely to change very much because that's the way the offense goes. On the other side of things, Taysom Hill, I heaven forbid had Taysom Hill as a top 10 tight end. I think we had him at 6 at fantasyguru.com this week. I told people to play Taysom Hill. There were obvious reasons for that. Chris Olave was out. Rachaad's out. Bo Means is out. Cedric Wilson is out. They had no wide receivers. 4 of their top 6 wide receivers out. Jamal Williams wasn't active. Kendrick Miller wasn't active. They had no back. Mims the only backup to Alvin Kamara. It was a Taysom Hill day. If there ever was a Taysom Hill day that you could predict, it was yesterday against the Falcons. 4 carries, 14 yards, 2 catches, 36 yards. Ugh. Now, for those people that missed the game and only looked at the box score, only looked at your fantasy page, and you're pissed off because of Taysom Hill, you missed the fact that first series of the game, Taysom Hill caught a ball on the left side of the field and went 88 yards for a touchdown. 88 yards for a score. Call back on a penalty that had nothing to do with the play. And I don't even know if it was a penalty, to be fair. So Taysom Hill, who did absolutely nothing yesterday, who killed everyone that started him, this massively disappointing effort, should have had 15 PPR points on his first touch of the game. So goes it sometimes in fantasy football. I know. How frustrating is that? All right, next game up on the list is San Francisco, Tampa Bay. San Francisco did their best to lose this game again. The Niners are 5-4. They should be at least 6-3, if not 7-2. They, again, almost dropped the game yesterday. They had a lot of furious comeback by the Bucs to the point where they had a chance late here in this game. They couldn't stop Baker Mayfield at the very end, which is bizarre because he went for 116 yards and a touchdown. He didn't do anything all game. And then at the end, he's breaking tackles. Nick Bosa can't tackle him. He's slipping sacks. Like, it was crazy at the end. And I'm watching this game going, Niners are going to lose another game late. They didn't. They emerged victorious 23-20, despite the 3 missed field goals of Mr. Mooney. On the Niners side of things, wanted to talk about CMC because obviously he's the big storyline. He returned, and get this, he returns and he played 87% of the snaps, I think it was yesterday, which was higher than his average last year. Like we talked about last week, if McCaffrey plays, he's in your lineup. And hopefully you did it. Everyone did that, right? No one had McCaffrey out. You had McCaffrey, you played him, right? Again, the fact that you had a higher snap count yesterday than his average last year is strange after all the time they took to make sure he was healthy, but clearly no concerns about his health. Jordan Mason had 1 touch. Isaac Guerrero had 1 touch. Christian McCaffrey, 13 carries for 39 yards, did nothing on the ground. As a pass catcher, 6 catches for 68 yards. Was it a big game? No. He had about 95 scrimmage yards, touched the ball 18 times. Obviously, without the touchdown, disappointing game. But, you know, it was the first game back. I consider it a win. I mean, even in the PPR space, you got 6-13, you got 17 points. That's how effective McCaffrey can be. He didn't really do anything. And in a PPR setup, he still had 17 points. So fire him up. The Niners certainly did yesterday. You fire him up moving forward here. On the other side of things, the Bucs fall to 4-6. You know, I put both running backs there, Irving and White, because this is a mess. You know, they look to welcome back after the bye week this week. They'll look to get Mike Evans back, which should really help the offense out. Baker Mayfield and the offense is starting to sputter. And this is not a surprise. Again, Mayfield yesterday, 116 yards and a touchdown. Irving had 13 carries. White had 10. Irving had 16 touches. White had 16 touches. Like, this is both White and Irving are flex options. Whether or not they pay off is really dependent on whether they get in the end zone. Yesterday, Irving had 73 rushing yards and a touchdown. And White had 6 catches, 39 yards and a touchdown. So both of them got in the end zone. So they both paid off. It's rare, and it's going to be rare down the stretch, that both those guys get 15 touches and both score a touchdown. Like, that's just asking too much. In essence, Irving is the better runner. He's the first and second down guy, and White's the third down back. As I noted, they're still giving both these guys opportunities on the ground. Let me just look at it yesterday. Irving, 5.6 yards a carry, White, 3.1. And it's not just about the numbers. Irving is a better runner of the football. Just it is. It's just a fact. But they're not going to give either one of these guys 20 touches. They're going to continue to involve both of them. Game flow will matter, because I don't know how much Irving plays. If they're in full comeback mode, that'd be mostly White. If they jump out to a 2-touchdown lead, maybe it's more, Irving. So, it's almost a pick your choice. It's almost, we have to predict the game flow and how that's going to play out, the game script, to determine whether White or Irving really is the guy to utilize. And that's frustrating. And so understand that if you have either one or both of these guys and you're trying to decide each week, it's going to be a hassle down the stretch, because they have shown no inclination to go away from using those two guys at a pretty even 50-50 split. At least Sean Tucker's no longer in the mix. So it's 3 guys. No, now it's 2 guys with the Bucs. All right, Pittsburgh and Washington. Pittsburgh defeated Washington 28-27. Commanders fall to 7-3. The Steelers moved to 7-2. Late in the game, right, a minute left in the game or whatever. Russell Wilson, you missed it. Drew the the Commanders offsides, won the football game without having to do anything. They were looking at punting the ball back to the Commanders. They were going to get one more chance to try to score. But the false start by the D-line of the Commanders cost them the game. Remember, no one play cost the team a game, but it did. Steelers won 28-27. I wanted to talk a little bit about the backfield here, because Najee Harris didn't do anything. 53 yards rushing on 21 carries is terrible. He did get in the end zone. He did get 21 carries. Like, this is a big-time workload for him. But here comes Jaylen Warren. And as frequently we see, Jaylen Warren ends up with a much better yard per carry mark, and oftentimes matches or slightly surpasses Harris in the yardage, even though Harris always out-touches him. We saw that again yesterday. 14 carries for 66 yards for Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren also caught a couple of balls for 29 yards, really involved in the offense. And I think that this is kind of a situation of him getting healthy, and obviously the presence of Russell Wilson under center. If you didn't see it, the huge, not little, huge negative for Jaylen Warren is that he got hit at the goal line and had the ball stripped at the 1-yard line. He was going into the end zone, got a couple defenders, grabbed him, ripped the ball out. He fumbled at the 1-yard line. So the backfield is still Harris's. Again, he had 21 carries yesterday. The backfield is still Harris's. But as we're seeing here, what I loved to see yesterday was that Cordarrelle Patterson was back, and Patterson only had 3 touches. So Arthur Smith loves Patterson, but he only gave him 3 touches. So I hope that stays that way. Hope we have this clear 60% to Harris, 35% to Warren, 5% to Patterson kind of declination there in terms of the usage at the running back position. That's my hope. We'll see if it plays out. But Warren's numbers improving yesterday, but that big fumble at the goal line, we'll see how that impacts playing time moving forward. On the other side of things, Jayden Daniels, the Commanders scored 27 points. Brian Robinson was out yet again with his hamstring injury. Austin Eckler got in the end zone a couple of times. Jeremy McNichol got in the end zone once. Yeah, that means Jayden Daniels, no touchdown passes. Didn't throw a pick, 202 yards there, but really didn't produce against a good Steelers defense. 3 carries for 5 yards. Oof. Right? 17 for 34. His vaunted great target rate, his vaunted completion percentage, his vaunted ball accuracy led to a 50% completion percentage yesterday. It was a rough game for him. And there was a couple of questions yesterday morning, people saying, do I start Jayden Daniels? And I said to start Jayden Daniels. I think everyone that had Jayden Daniels should have started him. The results yesterday could have been worse. He could have thrown 3 picks. But that's about as bad as he's ever likely to produce if he plays a full 4 quarters. There'll be a play or two where there's a big pass. He had one of them yesterday to McLaurin for 54 yards. There'll be a play or two where he runs for 18, 20 yards. It just didn't happen yesterday. Don't worry about Jayden Daniels moving forward. He's the same guy. Fire him up the next time out for the Commanders and for your fantasy squads. Tennessee and the Chargers. Chargers moved to 6-3, winning another football game. They have not allowed a team to surpass 20 points against them this year. The Chargers lead the NFL. I think they're allowing 13 points a game. Their defense is really good. Surprisingly, they allowed 17 to the Titans yesterday, but really good defense for that team. On the Titans side, Will Levis returned and, was effective. 18 for 23, 175 yards and a couple of touchdowns. Ran for 41 yards. He was effective. But Calvin Ridley was the big recipient yet again. Pollard had a little bit of a foot issue. He's had the foot issue. I think it tweaked it yesterday, so he ended up sharing the backfield with Spears a little bit more than I think we anticipated. Neither one of those guys did much, so not much to talk about in the backfield. But Calvin Ridley scored a couple of touchdowns. One of them was, I think late in the game, right? I'm trying to remember what the scoring was. When was it there? 49 seconds left in the game, so, the game was over. But Calvin Ridley got in the end zone that second time. 5 catches, 84 yards, 2 touchdowns, another 9 targets. Ever since they basically said we need to get the ball to him more, ever since they got rid of DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley has become a very sneaky every week starter. And it's really, when a guy gets 10 targets and catches 5 balls, you never feel good about it. When Calvin Ridley goes out there and has 1 catch or no catches, you're like, oh my God. But he's the whole game as a pass catcher. He's the whole game. He leads the team in air yards are massive. He leads the team in target share. It's massive. Nick Westbrook-Akini, who scored in 4 straight games, didn't score yesterday. 3 catches, 31 yards, just like we talked about last week. He either gets in the end zone or it's a crap game. No other receiver on this team had 3 catches yesterday. The only other one that did was Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. No other wide receivers catching passes for this team. Calvin Ridley is always in that 20 to 28 zone at the wide receiver spot. And if you have 3 starting wide receivers, he's always in your lineup. On the other side, for the Chargers, we had Gus Edwards return, which meant Kamani Vidal was inactive yesterday. Edwards coming back from his ankle injury. He actually led the team with 10 carries for 55 yards. J.K. Dobbins is listing. He caught 3 balls yesterday to help for 5 yards. I don't know if you can hear it right now. The rain's really starting to come down. Ooh, holidays. J.K. Dobbins, though, ran 15 times for 50 yards, and this is a continuation of what we talked about with Dobbins. He's starting to slow down, and you can see it in the numbers, but you can see it with your eyes too. He doesn't look as sharp. The burst seems to be lacking a little bit, and the production has gone down. So now we've got back Edwards. The good news for Dobbins is Edwards can't play third down, so Dobbins will continue to be the guy that plays third downs and gets some catches and all that. But I don't know, is he going to be dominating touches on the ground? And the answer is no. We saw it yesterday. Set 15 for him, 10 for Edwards. And that's probably what the Chargers want, 15 for Dobbins, 10 for Edwards. That's a good zone. But the fact is that Dobbins, I've said it all along, I don't think Dobbins makes it through the whole season. I'm not a Dobbins guy. A lot of people have been trying to trade for Dobbins and all this stuff throughout the year. I've every time basically said, I'm still saying, I'm not seeing it with Dobbins. And, I don't think trading him at this point does you much because I don't think anyone else is impressed by it either, right? Because the production has gone down so substantially. Kind of trending to just guy zone, running back 25 kind of stuff because of the volume. The Jets and the Cardinals, what do I say? I can't wait to hear Jeff Mans talk about this on the Elite Sports Show today, again, 3 to 6 Eastern. The Jets got boat raced again. They got boat raced, man. They got smashed. Aaron Rodgers is a fraud. He's a fraud. And we've all said it all along. And guess what? They're 3-7, and he's doing jack diddly nothing. 151 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions yesterday. Terrible effort for him, statistically and eyeball-wise. I put DeVonta Adams on there because Adams and Rodgers are boys, right? Adams built a borderline Hall of Fame career catching passes, the majority of them, from Rodgers. These guys can't even get on the same page. Rodgers is flinging balls all over the place to Adams. 13 targets yesterday to lead the team, easily to lead the team. Garrett Wilson only had 6 targets. 6 catches, 31 yards. And, I know DeVonta Adams isn't what he once was 4 years ago with Rodgers in Green Bay. I understand that. But Davante Adams is still a guy that should be, catching 5-6 passes for 75 yards every week, right? He was doing it with the Raiders. We know that. 13 targets for 6 catches for 31 yards. Some of that's on Adams, yeah. But it's Aaron Rodgers, man, and it's just over. It's just over. The Jets are done. Last year, they had the excuse that Rodgers got hurt in the first game. This year, there's no excuse. They're just done. They fired their head coach. Their offense is sputtering. Their defense just got, again, boat raced by the Cardinals, 31 point. I feel bad for Jets fans. But I don't, because you went with Aaron Rodgers. On the other side of things, Kyler Murray, and this is something I was very, very surprised. Let me reiterate my point of view that I've shared many times before. I don't like Kyler Murray. I wouldn't want Kyler Murray being the quarterback of my team. I don't draft Kyler Murray. Is Kyler Murray quarterback 1 in fantasy? Yes. Despite me not liking him, despite me not liking his body language or his leadership skills or his pouting or his volatility. All of that is true. I stand by all of that. I also say every week, Kyler Murray's a quarterback 1. I said it again this week. Kyler Murray, quarterback 1. If you had Kyler Murray, it's almost like I don't understand. Sometimes people draft players without knowing who they are. You watch two quarters of a football game with Kyler Murray, and you're going to think he sucks. There'll be a half of football where you look at him and you're like, that guy sucks. What's he, quarterback 28 in the league? And then you'll see another half of football where he's blazing. He's running the football. He's dropping dimes in like he's Russell Wilson. Yesterday, 266 yards, a touchdown, no picks. On the ground, he had 3 carries for 21 yards and 2 touchdowns. I had tons of do I start Kyler Murray questions. And to all of them, I said, yes. Start Kyler Murray. It's not he's Christian McCaffrey. But if you have Kyler Murray, you're in with Kyler Murray. You don't take Kyler Murray out because you have Aaron Rodgers and what you think is a good matchup. You don't bench Kyler Murray because, oh my gosh, look at Joe Flacco. No, you just play Kyler Murray. Just do it. Even yesterday, as they're rolling over the Jets. I mean, was it super impressive? He did what he needed to do, and he did it extremely well. He only threw 24 passes, but he was 22 for 24. He flung a couple of balls up that, Marvin Harrison caught. Marvin Harrison, same thing. Marvin Harrison, tons of start him, sit him questions. I wouldn't have drafted Marvin Harrison at pick 15 overall. I said it all preseason. I wouldn't draft a rookie wide receiver that early. No way. Okay, but we're not to the point where we're benching Marvin Harrison. Tons of Marvin Harrison questions yesterday, too. And it's not, I drafted Marvin Harrison in the first round, so I have to play him. It's that he's the number 1 wide receiver for his team. And at the end of the day, even if your team's not a great passing unit, you shouldn't be benching number 1 wide receivers for teams. It's not a winning move. The Jacoby Myers stuff, everyone wants to dump. I've seen it. Should I drop Jacoby Myers over and over again? He's the number 1 pass catcher on his team. Why are you dropping a guy that catches 5 or 6 passes for 70 yards every week? Why? So anyway, Cardinals destroyed the Jets, and the Jets season is over as they fall to 3-7. Philadelphia and Dallas. Let's talk on the Philly side of things. Jalen Hurts became the first quarterback ever to have 10 rushing touchdowns in 4 consecutive seasons. He's gone 4 straight games with a touchdown passing and rushing. He is just phenomenal. And things are really starting to open up schedule-wise for the Eagles, too. Like, he's phenomenal. Keep rolling out there, Mr. Hurts. Disappointing effort for Barkley. 66 yards on the ground. They didn't need him. They throttled the Cowboys 34-6. A.J. Brown, 5 catches for 109 yards. I want to talk for a second about DeVonta Smith, who caught 2 balls for 14 yards. Terribly disappointing effort for him. Doesn't matter. You still start him. The way the game flow has gone recently for the Eagles, and we saw it again yesterday, there are just no passes here. Jalen Hurts threw 20 passes yesterday. He threw for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. He only threw 20 passes because they just destroyed the Cowboys. Talk about a season in the toilet. But DeVonta Smith, there's no air here because you had 7 targets to Brown because Brown's the guy, right? They welcome back Dallas Goedert. Goedert had 2 catches for a touchdown. He could have had 2 touchdowns. Diggs made that great interception in the end zone. So it could have been 2 touchdowns for Goedert. But again, he only had 3 targets. They'll start throwing the ball more. And when they start throwing the ball more, things will return to normal for DeVonta Smith. Look at the start of the season. It was 7 catches for 75 yards every game. Continue to start DeVonta Smith. Excuse me as I take a sip of water. Continue to start DeVonta Smith as a wide receiver, too, in the fantasy space. Despite the poor effort yesterday, you'll be fine. On the other side of things, wow. Caleb Rush threw for 45 yards on 23 passes, which in 2024 football, honestly, shouldn't even be possible. 2 yards a target? Just under? Holy. Right? Jalen Hurts, 10 yards a target yesterday. That was so bad that Trey Lance was out there late, and Trey Lance, of course, threw an interception and didn't look like he knew the hell he's doing either. But things were so bad yesterday with Cooper Rush, it's not. No one was starting Rush except in Superflex and 2 QB leagues where they were desperate. Okay, no one was starting him as a QB1. But after what we saw last week, I'm still assuming he's the starter to the next game for the Cowboys. But, there was no, and you lose a football game by 28 points. There's garbage time production, right? There was nothing. Then you got Micah Parsons after the game, if you missed it, coming out and basically blasting his head coach, saying that the players care more than the coach does. Dumpster fire. You got Jerry Jones talking about the sun in the stadium. Players need to learn to. Cowboys were going like this because they couldn't see the ball. No one's ever played football outside in the sun. I don't know what's going on with the Cowboys, but they're 3-6. Their season's over. It's a mess. Cooper Kupp was pathetic. Trey Lance, if you're in a Superflex 2 QB league and Lance hasn't been added, you should add Lance, because Lance, and we saw it yesterday, even though he didn't do anything, he 3 carries for 17 yards in his limited work. He will use his legs. But Cooper Rush, poof. And, by the way, I put Caleb Ferguson there. It should have been Jake Ferguson. Sorry. Jake Ferguson, 5 targets, 4 catches, 24 yards. He led the team in yards. CeeDee Lamb had 21 yards on 10 targets. CeeDee Lamb had a 45% target share at 21 yards. Woof. Finally, Detroit and Houston. I think I read reviews this morning when I was kind of going over all the box scores, and I saw 23-7, 23-7, 23-7, 23-7, 5,000 times. Yes, the Texans were ahead 23-7, and they lost the football game. The Lions moved to 8-1. The Texans fall to 6-4. Lions overcame the 5 interceptions by Jared Goff. Oof. I think the big takeaway here is because Jared Goff's not going to complete half his passes and throw 5 picks ever again in his career. All right, okay. Gibbs had 100 yards from scrimmage. Montgomery got in the end zone. St. Brown got in the end zone. So all the normal things here. But Sam LaPorta got in the end zone. Yay, finally, right? Led the team in receiving yards with 66. 366 and 1. A solid fantasy effort, but he hurt his shoulder. He's got an AC sprain in his shoulder. Dan Campbell's already come out today and said that we'll see if he plays next game. So it kind of seems like at this point, Sam LaPorta is leaning toward not playing the next game for the Lions. Again, this can change. It's Monday at 10 o'clock Pacific time, so a lot can change here. But right now, if you have LaPorta as your tight end 1, you have to be thinking about making a move this week at some point to fill a spot that probably will be vacated by Sam LaPorta. And then finally, on the other side of things, we've got it with Tyreek Hill, because Tyreek Hill has got a wrist issue. What's the deal with wrist issues in wide receivers? I don't know. Tyreek Hill is, I guess, 50-50 to play tonight. It's a game time decision. No one knows if Tyreek Hill is going to play. We sat here and talked about Nico Collins late last week. I think it was even on Friday on the show. We talked about Nico Collins and said, look, if Nico Collins is active, we're obviously playing him. We'll have to wait and see, because as of now, he's missing practice and we just don't know. Well, he's back at practice in a limited fashion. He's removed from the IR. Okay, here we go. Oh, wait, he's not playing? They didn't, and this is the thing that I don't understand. There's a 21-day window to be activated from the IR once once the clock starts. There was zero reason to activate Collins and then not play him. There was no roster implication there. Because what he was on he was activated 3 days. They have 21 days. It's bizarre town that the Texans would activate. It's much like Jonathan Brooks. Why are teams activating players and then not playing them? And this has become a bigger thing, and I've said it many times. I don't understand how the NFL allows, with literally billions of dollars spent in fantasy, spent in wagering, billions of dollars spent on football each year, where the reporting on players and their health is atrocious. So the bottom line is Collins didn't play. That was out of nowhere. That was totally unexpected. Tank Dell ended up getting 9 targets last night, but only caught 5 balls for 39 yards because we anticipated Dell and Collins challenging the Lions. They didn't have that. Changed the whole outlook of the offense. But yeah, not really sure why teams are activating players and not having them active on game day. I don't get it. We're not talking about player 53 on the roster here. We're talking about Jonathan Brooks, who was, number 1 running back coming out of school, and Nico Collins, who was leading the NFL in receiving yards when he got hurt. Like, I just don't get it. Just don't get it. All right, anyway, before we shut things down here on the show, let's take a look at the comments. See a bunch of them in here. Heroic Dosa said Zamir White could, with the change of the coaching staff, could, with a C, lead the Raiders in carries the rest of the season. I'm not sold that they're just going to continue to do things the way they've been doing with Madison. I would suggest adding Zamir White if you have roster space. It could end up being exactly the same thing we saw. Zamir White could be a total bust. But no one's talking about Zamir White, and I think there's at least a 40% chance that he's going to be touching the ball 15 times a week now. I would be adding Zamir White if he's on the waiver wire. Hal, you asked about the Broncos backfield. We got to that. Hal also said the betting is on fire over at Fantasy Guru. It is. And this is something that I think should make you feel good about being a user member over at fantasyguru.com, or if you're considering doing it, feeling good about it. I don't have the data. I haven't asked Jeff to share the data with me, but I really do get the sense that as the season goes on, multiple years in a row now, as the season goes on, Jeff's betting gets better. And I think it makes sense because he starts to lock in teams, players, coaching decisions, game flow. And I get the sense, again, without any data, I get the sense that Jeff really starts to improve, and he's on fire right now. Ted's always great too. Tyler, Beaker, the team. Again, fantasyguru.com, click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. You can get signed up for any of these products. Send a note to support at fantasyguru.com. If you want to get the seasonal football the rest of the way, if you want to get the DFS football the rest of the way, if you want to get the wagering football product the rest of the way, they're all available to you. And we'll obviously work out a deal for you here because the season's half over. I started the Texans defense, said Angelo, because I couldn't find anyone better. I'll take the 5 interceptions. Yeah, and I think this is exactly that comment. Good for you, Angelo. And that comment is exactly why using team defense is stupid. Stupid. 5 interceptions from Jared Goff. Jared Goff threw more interceptions yesterday than he's been throwing incomplete passes in games. Just stupid. Massive game for you if you had the defense going, of course. Hello, Henry. David P. Ray, would you try to trade Hunt to the Pacheco owner or just hold? All depends on the return. Pacheco rumored to be active in about 2 weeks. That's kind of the guesstimate right now. I think it makes sense to try to trade him depending upon the return and depending upon what your backfield looks like. So I really can't answer that question, David. Chris, when I tell people that a certain time of the week is a bad time to talk, they always call at the time. They remember the time, just not the context. I feel you're right. Yeah, right. Don't call me on Tuesday at 11, and all they remember is call Chris at Tuesday at 11. Good point. I'll have to check after the show. I think it was people I know and then a doctor. So I think I had a double whammy here. But yeah, it's usually how it works, right, Chris? I don't know. It's weird how that works that way. Sean asked a question: does Chicago clean house? I mean, the coaching staff, Eberflus is not. Jeff Manns has said this for 2 years now. Eberflus is not the answer. They might as well. I don't know if they will. They might as well. Tony says, morning. Hello. Angela said, I drafted Bijan, been holding Algier all season long. Perfect. Algier continues to be a borderline usable flex option when you're desperate, but certainly would become a massive play if Bijan Robinson were to get hurt. Angela also says seeing the callback run for Taysom Hill was terrible. It's freaking awful. Sean, you're right. The Jets need to clean house. They already have. They fired their head coach. They demoted their offensive coordinator. They brought in players through trade market. They traded guys away on the trade market. It's just over for them. Let's see. Can Jerry Jones fire himself? No, but it's probably time that he considers doing it. Angelo, I dropped Worthy for Jacoby last week. Great move, Angelo. Again, I don't know how these players are on the waiver wire, but take advantage of people making mistakes. Sean asked a question, what are we doing with Adams the rest of the way? Again, he got 13 targets. He didn't do anything, but he got 13 targets. That's massive, massive target share. Adams starts every week. You can't not start somebody. You can't. If you're getting 10 targets a week, you got to start. Like it doesn't even have to be complicated. I think a lot of times people make it more complicated than it needs to be in the fantasy space. If a player is getting 10 targets a week, they start. Just how it is. Tony says, this is my first year with the betting DFS sub, and I'm learning so much from fantasyguru.com. It's great to hear, Tony. And yeah, I know, this is a free show, and we're hoping that some of you will go over to fantasyguru.com and click that subscribe tab in the top right corner and sign up and all of that. But I think that, it's not a hard sell, right? We're not blasting you with we try to have this show be content driven, right? I can make this show much more fluff. Because this is free. It's like the only free thing we do. I can make it more fluff, but I also want to show you the kind of stuff that you can expect to get over at fantasyguru.com. That's why we have Rich Mileto on the show and Armando Marsal and Tyler Beaker and Russell Clay. These are the people you'll be interacting with on the football side of things if you sign up for the site. So you get to see them talk. You get to see that they know what they're talking about. You get to see how they view things. Maybe you're already starting to form an opinion of you like this guy a little bit more than that guy, which is totally fine because not everyone on the staff is homogenous. We're all the same. Some of us analyze players this way, some of it kind of here, some of it over there. It's a great mixture. And I think we have a really good team. And I think we have a bunch of people that are very good at their jobs. And if you've got a few extra dollars around and you want some help, you want to join the largest active community in fantasy sports, you want to have discussions with us in Discord, you want to have discussions with other users in Discord, you want to find people to play in your fantasy leagues, whatever it might be, check us out over at fantasyguru.com. I'm glad that you're enjoying things, Tony, and I hope the rest of you will take up the opportunity to join us over at fantasyguru.com. So that's the show for today. Don't forget, we got Monday Night Football tonight, Miami and the Rams. We'll see on Tyreek Hill. That's the big storyline at this point in time. Will he be active or not for the Dolphins? We'll have a full breakdown of this game tomorrow on the show. We'll also talk to Armando Marsal and take that first look at the waiver wire here. Remember, it's 12 o'clock Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time for Fantasy Sports Daily, Monday through Friday, your free source of fantasy football fun, facts, and finformation. I was trying to look for another F, information, but I made a word up. You probably knew that was happening. So thanks for joining with me today. And follow us on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter X, at fantasyguru.com. Type in Fantasy Sports Daily to your podcast network. We're always going to be there to help you out. We're by the way, we're there through the holidays. We're not taking the holidays off. We're not taking Thanksgiving off or Christmas off. The schedules will change a little bit, so I'm not saying it's going to be exactly the same, but we're still going to be doing the work. That's our pledge to all of you, is to do our best to help you have fun and have that success, no matter what fantasy sport you're playing with us over at fantasyguru.com. I'm Ray Flowers. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com. See you at 12 o'clock Eastern tomorrow, folks.